All right. Hey, guys, welcome to the ATP Project. You're with your host, Steve and Nick. Hey, Steve.
Hey, how are you?
This week? Good.
Good. We're talking about probably the naturopath's favourite area of the body.
Yeah, it's my favourite area of the body.
Oh, you're an expert at this.
Yeah.
This is like, what, 80% of your practice?
Yeah, I would say. Well, I would say there's probably a 99% connection for most people.
Oh, yeah. We're talking about the gut.
Yeah.
But we're talking about immunity.
We are.
Are we talking about immunity or the gut? I've got paper. What are you
We're talking about both and how they're connected, Steve.
Well, come on. How much of the immune system hangs around the gut? What, about 5%, 6%?
Well, you would be surprised. Actually, 70 to 80%
oh my God.
of our immune system is located within our gut.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's like 4/5.
Yeah.
80% of the immune system hangs out in our bowels. What's the attraction down there? What's going on? Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So, when we talk about, gut issues and dysbiosis and all the different things that can go wrong in the gut, we have to talk about the immune system and how that impacts that. So, a lot of people say, I'm always getting sick or, I'm getting viruses or I can't get better after this. I'm like, well, let's look at your gut.
Right.
So a lot of people don't sort of associate the two. So, it's extremely important when we're talking about immune health and trying to get people's immune system rebalanced. So we're going to talk all about how the gut sort of is, what that connection is and where it's located and what it does and what can impact our gut that impacts our immune system and all that sort of thing.
Amazing. Now the immune system is made up in different parts, basically, and we'll really simplify it now. It's not a immune podcast directly, but you got the innate immune system and you got the adaptive immune system. The innate one is there and it pushes everything away. Yeah. And like in the stomach, we've got acid, which kills bugs that goes in. That's part of the innate immune system and inflammation. Then you've got this adaptive part of the immune system, like the B cells, the T cells, T regulatory cells. We're going to mainly work in that area today. But isn't it amazing that we've got this absolute plethora of immune system in the gut? And one of the reasons is because we've got so many trillions of microbes in the gut. Now, I said trillions, I didn't exaggerate.
No.
There's trillions.
There is trillions.
If you look up in the night sky, especially where you live, you'll see all the stars, right, of what we call the Milky Way, which is our galaxy. Yeah. And each one of those little points of light is a star, like our sun. And there's about 200 billion stars in the Milky Way galaxy. There's way more gut cells in your gut and my gut than there are stars in the Milky Way. Yeah. An astronomical amount. So the immune system has to basically keep those bugs in check. And it's like this homeostasis thing. Homeostasis is keeping the body in balance. Yeah. Isn't that amazing? So do you want to just run through the barriers? Well, we talked about the stomach, its role, it kills all the viruses and stuff you eat because that's where it all comes in. What about the other barriers in the body? What about the intestinal barrier?
Yeah, so I guess if we explain a little bit about physiology in the gut, that gets people then can start to understand how the immune system is related and sort of what can go wrong when we're looking at different parts of the gut as well. So I guess we start with the intestinal barrier. Yep. So the intestinal barrier, it's literally one cell thick.
Wow.
So it's pretty thin. And that is all that protects us from the outside of our body, which is actually our gut, which is actually outside our body because it's open, from the inside, which is anything, it's in circulation, that type of thing. So that's all that's really protecting us from anything crossing over. So it's really important to have good intestinal barrier health and barrier function. So it lines our small and large intestine. And it absorbs nutrients and all that sort of thing. So, and obviously is our defense for harmful pathogens and antigens and things like that. So that's our intestinal barrier. Yep. And then on lining that intestinal barrier is something called the mucosa.
Mucosa, what's that?
So mucosa, it's basically mucus, essentially. Yep. It's a thick lining of mucus and it lines our intestinal barrier. Right. And that sort of acts as a bit more of a protection from what's going on inside or outside in our gut, which is outside.
Which is outside. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? The gut is on the inside, but it's on the outside of the body.
That's right, yes. Because it's open to the outside world, it's actually considered to be outside the body.
Look, this is
an open tube, really.
Open tube that goes from one end to the other end. Yeah. And it's open.
It's open, yeah. So anything from the outside world can get in there. So
oh, my God.
So we've got to really look after the barriers so that whatever's coming in, which we'll talk about, does not cross over this barrier, which can happen, which we'll also talk about. So,
and here's the weird thing. Things have got to cross over the barrier because otherwise that food I had before has got to go somewhere. It doesn't go straight through.
Straight out otherwise.
Yeah. So it's a weird barrier because it's got to select what it you know.
That's right.
And you know, I remember in the old days when I learned about this, it's like, how does that work? And it does.
It does work. Yeah.
So it's quite remarkable, and you're right. So talk about the barrier as well, and what's this GALT stuff I've heard about?
Yeah, so we have something that is sort of basically in the mucosa called the GALT, which is the gut-associated lymphoid tissue.
Yep.
And that basically is where that 70% of our immune system lies within the GALT, basically. So the GALT is like it's continually being exposed to pathogens and things that are coming in. And the GALT then has to sort of decide what is harmful and what is commensal. So smart GALT. So what to sort of trigger the immune system, say, hey, let's get rid of this, or no, let's leave that alone. That's commensal. We want that there. So so he has a pretty important job.
Oh, slightly.
Yes, slightly. And so then we have something around the GALT called Peyer's patches.
Oh, my God. It's getting complex, isn't it?
It is complex. So they're like small patches of lymphoid tissue.
Yeah.
And they're located just under the gut barrier in the small intestine.
Yeah.
I do a lot of hand signals.
I know. It comes out in the camera.
I do lots of hand signals a lot. I feel like I think I've said this before. I should be Italian. I'm not.
Yeah. You kind of look Italian.
I know. I'm not Italian. Sadly, I'm not. I wish I tested it to see.
Yeah, that's right. What was your gene?
Because I don't know. German.
Yeah.
Scandinavian.
That's pretty cool, eh?
Yeah, I know.
I'm Scottish.
Yeah, I've got a bit of that in there too. I've got a bit of Welsh and Scottish.
That was a good accent, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That came very naturally.
It came very natural, Steve. Yeah.
I can put on a voice of a Scottish person and a gay person. That's about it. It's true. It's my only stupid talents I've got.
Right.
You know, and play guitar.
I was going to say sing, play guitar, lifesaver. What else has he done? He's marathon runner. Let's just list them all off, shall we?
It's funny because, you don't think about that sort of thing. But yeah, it's like, weird stuff. But God, we better get back to the Peyer's patches.
Yeah, the Peyer's patches. So they contain lots of different types of immune cells, macrophages, dendritic cells, T cells, B cells. So they basically are reaching out and sort of saying, let's sampling basically, and then saying, this is great, let's leave that alone, or yes, this is pathogenic. Hey, immune system, come in. We've got to come in and neutralise this, so that it doesn't cause any issues.
Right.
So has a really important role. Interestingly, younger people have more Peyer's patches than older people. So research is showing, it's fairly new research, that they peak the Peyer's patches numbers. I think it's like 30 to 40 across the small intestine.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Peak in your 20s. Of course, like everything, right?
Is that? Yeah, everything peaks in your 20s.
I know, right? And then they slowly decline. Which, I guess, is that then... Could that be contributing to the fact that as we get older, you see a lot more gut issues and that sort of thing as well? Infections and things that a lot of people are getting. So could that be in part? There's a lot of other reasons, obviously, but in part that we have less Peyer's patches. So that's super interesting. So they sit in the mucosa. So and then we also have, which is a really important part of the immune system, the secretory IgA.
IgAs, yes. Now secretory IgA is an antibody, and there's 5 major classes of antibodies. They're IgG, IgA, IgM, IgE, and IgD. That's right. God, you've got to. It's funny how you learn this stuff in the 90s and you forget it. And the G's are the most common ones, but the A's are in the gut, and the E's people might have heard of with allergies.
Yes.
You have lots of E's. So anyway, and the M's are the memory cells.
Memory cells. Yeah. So secretory IgA.
Yep.
So it's housed in the mucus layer.
Yep.
And it helps to protect that intestinal epithelium. So that barrier, that one cell thick barrier.
Yes.
So it is really important. And I find when I do stool analysis, I see it either super high a lot of the time or super low. So both ways can be problematic.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we have good amounts, not too much, not too little. So it can quench bacterial virulence factors. So virulence factors is something a bacteria is put out which can cause in some cases, quite significant issues.
Yep, issues, big time.
It can influence the composition of the gut microbiota as well, so that's really, really cool. It can downregulate pro-inflammatory responses. It can do so many different things.
I mean, you're going to hear a lot about that today, about how this is, too much or too little is bad.
Yeah.
People think viruses are bad, but there's viruses in your gut.
Yeah.
People think bacteria are bad.
Yeah.
But there's bacteria in your gut.
Bacteria in the gut.
Lots of it.
Fungi
Trillions.
in our gut. There's good fungi, there's bad fungi, there's
protozoans.
All sorts of stuff. So
and yeah, you're right. It's some are bad, and some are bad for some people, and some are those same bugs may not affect other people.
Yeah.
There's Helicobacter pylori, which is associated with ulcers in the 80s, Australian guys. But some people just have that and they're completely fine.
Yeah, there is. So, there's another one, Blastocystis hominis, which used to be like,
that was the baddie.
Yeah, this one's really bad. You've got to get rid of it. But now they're saying that it can be commensal.
Commensal, which means just normally found in your gut.
And there's a lot of people that have high amounts of blasto that are actually fine.
Yeah.
I'm one of them. I have high amounts of blasto.
I didn't know you had blastocystis hominis.
Neither did I until I did my first stool sample a few years, 3, 4, 5 years ago now.
Wow.
But yeah, but I don't have any symptoms.
No, you're a very healthy specimen. Wow.
Yeah. So, and then, a lot of times they're saying now, it used to be, well, it's the blasto that's doing it.
Yeah.
But not looking around what's happening around that. And could it be that whatever else was happening was then getting blamed on the blasto, and so it became evil, whereas now they're saying it actually could be beneficial in the gut.
Well, there is a principle in science that association doesn't mean causation.
Right.
So let's say you're healthy, or let's say you're unhealthy. You've got something wrong with your depression, say, and we do your bowel. Oh, you've got blastocystis hominis. Therefore, that's causing your depression. It's not necessarily, is it?
No.
But it could be.
It could be. Yeah.
But it could, it's not. Association doesn't mean causation.
Yeah.
And it's funny. This is a different topic. We were looking at that with LDL cholesterol today.
We were, yeah.
And so that's for a future podcast. But,
it is. Yeah.
But association doesn't mean causation. It's a principle of science.
Yeah.
So, it's like I was born in 1969, and since then teeth have improved. It's not because of me being alive. It's because of other stuff.
Could be, Steve.
Yeah, it could be.
Depends.
Just came in and healed everybody's teeth.
It's just all your music is good for the soul and your teeth.
My music is bad for your teeth. Oh, God, the stuff. Oh, geez, those are the days. But it's incredible, the gut and what it does. And you talk about the balance, and you've got these cells in your gut that are, T helper 1, T helper 2, T helper 17 is a rich one in the gut and all that sort of thing. So we'll talk about them a little bit down the track. But, like there's things that can disrupt your microbiome. Now, everyone knows about shitty diets and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But, and drinking whatever shit, this is healthy, this is a pink drink, but it's magnesium. So
that's right. Yeah.
It tastes good, but it's good for your gut. But what can really disrupt your gut that people may not associate with, McDonald's, for example?
Yeah. Okay. So, chronic stress can impact your gut significantly. And I think people are starting to realise that is a factor. So, I mean, and how often do you have people say, I'm really stressed about something and my gut's not right.
Yes.
I've got constipation, all of a sudden I've got diarrhea, I've got stomach pains and cramping and things like that, and I'm highly stressed.
Yeah.
So, so that's a big part of that. Cortisol, interestingly, will suppress secretory IgA levels.
That's that good guy in the gut that's supposed to be there, but not too high, not too low. Yep, gotcha.
Yep. So when I see low secretory IgA levels on a stool analysis, I then look at the other factors as well. But I look at stress and cortisol, and I talk to the patient about their stress. And if they have high stress, then this is impacting the secretory IgA. So once secretory IgA levels go down, we lose that ability to sort of notify the immune system of any issues.
Yep.
So therefore, we can have more infections and things like that, and the immune system doesn't respond. So that can be one way that the immune system becomes impacted. So when people say when I'm stressed, I get sick all the time. I'm just constantly sick.
Yeah.
So you're impacting your gut, which is impacting your ability for your immune system to function properly. Therefore, you're going to have more issues with being unwell.
Yeah.
Or you get people that say, I'm actually never sick. My gut is a mess, but I'm never sick. I haven't been sick in 10, 15 years. Because then the immune system's not responding.
Yeah.
So you're getting these infections, but the immune system's not even responding anymore because it's not working properly. So the gut is really impacted that as well.
Oh, my God.
So that's really
very scary.
Yeah, really scary. And the other thing that people don't think about when we're talking more about chronic stress now is chronic stress it causes catabolism in the body. So it's becoming catabolic.
Yeah.
So you're breaking things down. And what is one thing that it will break down as much as muscle is the gut lining.
Gut lining, yeah.
Which is really common. So it eats away the mucus lining. So we're talking about that mucus barrier. And when we don't have that, we didn't really explain the mucus barrier and how that sort of works. But when we don't have a very thick mucus barrier, secretory IgA and Peyer's patch is sort of housed in there, so then they're reduced. And then there's less less protection between that our gut and our systemic sort of circulation in that barrier. So that barrier, as it's only one cell thick, can be damaged really easily.
Really easily.
So then we start to have a bit of damage going on to that barrier, which is what we call gut hyperpermeability. So then we can have, pathogens and things that can cross over into our systemic circulation, and then that can then either overstimulate our immune system, i.e. like autoimmune conditions, or suppress our immune system because it just doesn't function properly at all. So we're constantly getting sick. We have no protection. So that's really interesting how that stress can really break down.
I know, and everyone
lining.
talks about stress and the adrenals and stress and this and stress and that. Yes, it's bad for your brain. It shrinks your brain. Chronic stress, the hippocampus, but stress causes. But also, stress is a very interesting one because it's different to different people. Like, let's say you're a hard worker, but you love your job.
Yes.
You won't be stressed. The cortisol, because it's like what you love doing.
Yeah.
But it's all about the getting yourself out of that comfort zone and being really stressed is dangerous for people who lose control of their life. Yeah. There's people I know who are in incredibly stressful situations right now and they only work part-time, but they hate their job so much that it's like it stresses them out.
Yeah.
There's really sad things. And as I said, it's not just the adrenals. The adrenals stimulate the outside of the adrenals, the cortex stimulates cortisol. That's where the name comes from. So and that causes destruction throughout the body and your gut, as you correctly point out. And if your immune system in the gut goes down, then you're in big trouble. Yeah. And stress also causes us to be malnourished because we reduce our digestion and everything. Yeah. But what other things, like have you got any other sort of things that disrupt our gut, that disrupt are there any chemicals out there you got to be particularly careful of?
Yeah. So glyphosate.
It is hard to say, isn't it?
That's scary.
Because in my day we learned phosphates, which is a chemical.
Yeah.
But glyphosate is a weird one to say, isn't it?
Yeah,
Glyphosate is branded as Roundup.
Yeah.
It's used to kill weeds. Yeah. But it's sprayed on crops now because crops can be grown resistant to glyphosate.
Yeah. It's used a lot in the US. It's used a lot. So I've got some stats. Compared to the rest of the world combined, the US uses more glyphosate than any other country. But we still have it in this country, in Australia. As you said, it's Roundup. It's sprayed on crops. It also leaches into the soil, and then it can end up in waterways and things like that. So we're still having issues with that. So the residual of the glyphosate inhibits the cytochrome P450 enzymes. So they're the enzymes we need to help detoxify things like xenoestrogens and things like plastics and all the things that are in our body that need to be detoxified. So it impacts that. So therefore, the body can't detox them as well. We get recirculation and build up as well.
Jeez.
So a lot of these toxins and chemicals can stay in our blood and in our adipose tissue. So a lot of toxins particularly the body will try to remove from circulation. So it moves into the fat cells because that's somewhere it can store them away from circulation. So in our adipose tissues, in muscle, in bone, in the brain, in our lungs, other organs.
That's a sucky place to put a toxin, isn't it?
It's terrible,
Stupid
isn't it?
human body.
So anyway, so that can all disrupt the microbiome as well. So having those toxins in there, once we start having those sort of toxins in the gut, we'll talk about the microbiome and the balance between commensal and more pathogenic and inflammatory.
But what about foods? Are any foods that people eat most days that can really stuff up back up?
Obviously, ultra-processed foods.
Now this is a really interesting point because a processed food, people are a bit confused about this. So you want to talk about processed foods? So
processed foods is anything that's I'm going to say anything that you look at it and you can't really tell what it was originally. Yeah. So that's a big thing I say to people. If you pick up a product and you don't actually know what the food was originally that made it, then it's probably something you shouldn't eat.
Yes.
It's just too processed. And look, we do eat some processed foods. So oats. They're processed, but they still can be quite healthy.
Yeah, right? They can be healthy. But things like that gets very processed that people will put on, like sugars.
Yeah. Sugars,
and they'll leave them overnight to soak overnight, and the sugars just permeate. It becomes a real sweet thingamajiggy. But also process things like Wheat Bix, the classic healthy breakfast, which is
Wheat Bix with sugar and milk.
That was my breakfast here. And it's funny because that's ultra processed. What else comes out square like that?
I know, right?
It literally is a weird shape.
It is, yeah.
It's ultra processed, and people will call them whole grains.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't get that.
It's not a whole grain. You chip your tooth on a whole grain.
Right. Exactly.
Wheat.
Yeah, so all those sorts of things, soft drinks, juices, energy drinks I've put in there as well, some energy drinks, dressings, sauces. So there's so much stuff that we're having that's highly processed. And obviously that's going to impact our microbiome. It generally feeds more of those more pathogenic inflammatory microbes.
Yep.
More fungi as well.
Yep.
You can have overgrowth of candidas and things like that.
Yes.
Then that will impact your secretory IgA levels and all that sort of thing, and then that impacts your immune system. So interestingly, I see so many people that have suppressed immune system when they have candida infections.
Well, yeah. Well, that was the old days of the 1980s when AIDS was going around. People would the candida would overgrow, and some of these people, they get spots, and throughout their mouth they'd get candida overgrowth because the immune system just died.
Yep.
And literally, that's what they'd die of: a candida or a cold or a rhinovirus or whatever's hanging around. You die of.
You die of it.
And AIDS was a great example, a terrible example, but a great example of what happens to the immune system when it's suppressed. Your body can't live without it.
Yeah.
And people do eat badly, and really all sorts of things can cause problems, with their gut and that. But I want you to now press you here. What other things that people commonly find in their diet that really destroy the gut?
So commercial meats and fish.
Good now.
And this is an interesting one, and I'll do a little example at the end to show how hard this is to avoid these things that can definitely impact our microbiome and our gut in general. So commercial meats are full of antibiotics.
Yes.
2 reasons. 1, it helps to fatten up the animal, and 2, it stops any infections and things that they may get.
Sounds like a good idea so far.
Right. So that, these are used to prophylactic. So they give this to the animal, then they slaughter the animal, then we eat it. So we're also getting the antibiotics.
Yes.
So we all know antibiotics are not good for our microbiome.
Yep.
They can decimate the microbiome. And fish as well. So in this country, other countries not so much. In this country, we don't have fresh wild caught fish. We've generally only got farm fish.
That's true.
We can't get wild caught salmon, should I say. We can get other fresh fish, but I eat salmon, so that's what I care about.
They have them in the big fish farms, don't they?
The Tassie, then the fish farm. So they give them antibiotics because they're swimming around in their own poop and toxins and stuff like that. So
Great.
So anyone that eats salmon, enjoy.
Oh, jeez.
So that's, so I've got, this one sounds, and I've actually seen this. Chicken now, compared to 70 years ago, they're growing twice the size in half the time.
Wow.
As they were 70 years ago. And that's because of the antibiotics. That's because they also put hormones in them. We haven't talked about the hormones as well. So, but when I was young, I won't go into who, but someone I knew had
1847,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. They had a skip business, and one of their jobs was to go to I won't say the name of the company, one of the big chicken companies, and they used to throw out a lot of dead chickings and things like that. And they would have chickens in there that had, I shouldn't probably say this.
Oh, God, say it now.
Their legs would break because they were too heavy to support their weight because of what they were pumping into them.
Wow.
And I've seen that for myself. So anyway, commercial meat and fish. And look, it can be difficult because if we talk about organic and grass-fed, yes, there is a lot less of this in there. A lot of people can't afford that. No. So this is where we have a bit of a problem in what do we do, because the next thing is something that a lot of us can't avoid either, and this can significantly impact the microbiome, is tap water.
Tap water? You mean I gulp out of the tap and I get dysbiosis?
Yeah.
Well, what's in tap water that causes that?
So chlorinated water. So chlorine kills bacteria.
Of course
Obviously,
it does.
Chlorinated pools and things like that.
Yeah.
So we drink it. It's killing our healthy microbiome as well, healthy bugs in our microbiome. So and this is my little example I liked here. So say, for instance, right, so someone's like, wanting to be really healthy. So they get home delivery meals or they get frozen meals. You can get the frozen fitness food meals and things like that. Really cool. And they're really, they're protein and veggies, a nice healthy balance. So they've got conventional meats generally, unless you get an organic one. So you've got your antibiotics and your hormones in there. Then you've got your vegetables, which generally are sprayed because they're not organic. So they're sprayed with some type of pesticide. Yeah. And then they're in a plastic container, which most people just rip the top off and put in the microwave and heat it up. So then you get the leaching of the toxins from the plastic into the food.
You sound like me.
And then you have it with a nice glass of water because you're not drinking sodas or anything because you're trying to be healthy, right?
So you've just described what some people consider a healthy dinner.
Yeah.
And you've just told them that it'll destroy their microbiome. God, you're going to be popular after this podcast.
I know.
What are you supposed to eat then? We'll get to that.
Yeah. So that's just to sort of to highlight that there's so many things that are impacting our gut. And I think that's why we're seeing so many more, I mean, there are other factors as well, but so many more gut issues because of the modern world. We're taking in all these toxins through our food, through our water, through the containers, through everything. So we've got that to sort of contend with along with everything else that's going on as well. So just to sort of make people aware that, everything you're putting in your gut is really impacting so many different systems, and the immune system significantly can impact that. So,
well, you haven't even hit on some of the other things that, like medications of antibiotics and that sort of thing. You haven't even touched it. But you're right, the modern life now, you've got to go back to 1847. There was no big chlorinated water. You just drank out at the damn stream. There was no fish farming. You just caught fish and ate it, and you shot an animal and ate it.
Yeah.
And it was completely different. So it's only been the last 100 years or so since we've been industrialising the production of animals.
Yeah.
Especially, in the methods you're talking about, and sprays and that. They weren't around.
No. It wasn't to the degree it is now. No. It wasn't around. I mean, even when we were children, a lot of this wasn't around. So, our generation grew up a lot healthier than this generation, and even people who are trying to do the right thing by their children, they're still getting all these toxins.
And you haven't mentioned preservatives. You haven't mentioned all that weird stuff, the colorants. And
so many things. So
have you seen the breakfast cereals nowadays?
Yeah, I don't.
I know. We don't eat cereal. But.
I mean, full disclosure, I love cereal, but I haven't had it in like 30 years. I don't eat it, but I used to love cereal.
What did you used to eat?
So I used to eat cornflakes. I love cornflakes, but I used to eat. Yeah. I used to do gluten free. It was a really nice one. It was like heritage flakes. They were called. That's right. They were really. They were just really.
So you were a
nice.
naturopath as a kid.
As a kid, but I also used to eat Fruit Loops.
Oh, now you're talking.
I ate fruits. I used to eat them dry out of the packet.
Oh,
when I was a kid, the standard. Like,
look, we cringe and laugh about it, but there's thousands of children, maybe I won't say millions, but thousands of children have that sort of cereal for breakfast. Fruit Loops and.
Yeah, well, we used to get it, I think, once a
and...
month as a treat, that we'd get a box of Fruit Loops between the three of us. And I think it was once a month. I can't remember. And that was a treat. Whereas now it can be standard for a lot of people.
It's very standard.
Yeah.
Like, you see it at supermarkets. It's not there just for the look of it. People are buying it. And thousands of people are buying Fruit Loops, Cocoa Pops, those sorts of things. So we say, why would you eat that? People are eating that. Now, maybe our listeners may not be.
No, I don't.
But there's thousands of kids that are eating Fruit Loops.
But even the healthy cereals, they're still cereals. They're still highly processed. They're full of grains. They're, high carbohydrate, high sugar. So even, people think they're doing the right thing by eating a healthy cereal, or even the mueslis and the paleo mixes and all of that sort of thing. I have a paleo mix. They're still full of honey and like malt syrup, and some of them have, lots of nuts and seeds, which is great, but they're having a lot of them.
Yeah.
And then the grain mueslis and things, they're full of, puffed wheats and all that sort of stuff. So they're getting a lot of grain. So even those sorts of things, a lot of them can be not great for your microbiome. I
honestly don't think I've had cereal, I'm not exaggerating here, for probably breakfast for 25 years.
Yeah, I reckon it'd be about the same.
I've had eggs, which will kill me from cholesterol, apparently.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that too. But yeah, it's quite staggering that, like you're right about that. And you're right about the stress.
Yeah.
But what about if someone's got low, like just low digestion, like low stomach acid, upper?
Yeah. So this is, and we've talked about this before in the podcast, how poor digestive function can really start to impact significantly, and it can start just from low stomach acid.
Yeah.
And so how many people that I see with low stomach acid? Loads. Because stress will reduce your stomach acid. We've talked about that so many times.
Well, you got to remember that sounds bad and everyone's picking on stress, but without stress, you know, if you're stressed in the olden days, you were escaping something or fighting or flighting. And you didn't want to give a stuff about the amount of acid in your stomach when you're getting chased by a lion.
No.
No one gives a stuff. You need to survive.
That's right.
So stress is actually, you know, everyone says how bad it is. It's good for you to survive.
Yeah, acute stress is great.
Yeah.
It's traumatic stress, which is good. It's good for you.
I went to the gym this morning and stressed myself out.
Yeah.
You know, that was stressful because it was raining and bloody cold this morning up here on the Gold Coast. It was freezing. Yes. But, you know, it was a stress, but it was a short-term stress, got it all sorted. So no problems. It was good for me. Yeah. But it's the chronic stress you talked about earlier, the mortgage, the partners. The
stress that doesn't go away.
And it's different things to different people.
Yeah. Well, someone might love to jump out of an aeroplane and parachute out, and someone else might stress the heck out of them.
Well, you know, I know someone who's stressed from leaving their dog at home for a day.
Yeah, I don't know who that would be. I don't know. It's the baby. This is me.
Baby?
The baby.
It's about,
I know, he's monstrous.
Monstrous, vicious, killer-looking dog.
It does stress me out. It does stress me out.
No, Nick's got a cute dog that's, it's quite funny.
With my partner, not on his own. Yeah, so the other one is if we're not digesting our proteins properly, what are we not absorbing? Our amino acids.
Yeah.
What do we need amino acids for? Literally everything in the body. Literally everything. So, even sort of a lack of one amino acid in the 20 amino acids that we need can start to cause an imbalance in the body. You know, we need amino acids to then create proteins in the body.
Yep.
So, you know, things like antibodies, we need it for enzyme production, hemoglobin, hormones,
rippling muscles,
actin-myosin,
Yep.
immunoglobulins, so pretty much everything. So if we're not breaking down our foods and our proteins effectively, we're not absorbing them and converting to amino acids, which then, you know, we need for everything. So therefore we can have so many different imbalances, blood sugar imbalances because, you know, insulin, all that sort of thing. So the spin-off effect or the ripple effect of not being able to digest your food properly because you've got low stomach acid from stress is significant imbalances elsewhere in the body because you don't have the amino acids that we need.
Yeah, and also you need the acid to get the parietal cells to absorb B12.
Yeah.
So you can have vitamin deficient.
Yep.
And you might be eating vitamins, but they're just not being absorbed.
Yeah.
It's incredibly dangerous.
So that's a big one. And so then that impacts our immune system. So, you know, impacts our mucus layer, all that sort of thing. So that is having an issue there. And then obviously that can create things like dysbiosis. So we can have,
the low stomach, we'll get low stomach acid.
Yep.
I eat something in my food that's a bug.
Yep.
It doesn't get killed. What happens?
Well, stomach acid is highly antimicrobial.
Yes.
Right. So, and bile as well, which I didn't talk about. So if we have low stomach acid, it doesn't trigger bile release either. Of course, and a lot of times. So they're both highly antimicrobial. Bile more in the small intestine. So that's where SIBOs and things can come in. What was your question? Sorry, Steve.
Well, okay. A hypothetical one. Like just say I'm drinking my drink there and it's got a little bit of Garda in it because I got it out of the tap water in Sydney. Well, they had a Garda outbreak years ago, so I'll pick on Sydney. But you know, you get a bit of Garda in there, I drink it, stomach acid kills it. No problem.
Yeah.
What if it doesn't?
That's right. Then you can get significant infections. So parasitic infections can be quite common. So, you know, foodborne, airborne, that sort of thing. So parasitic infections, because they don't have that stomach acid to break that to neutralise that.
Yeah, kill the bugs.
Bacterial, viral infections. So viruses can come in through food, airborne viruses into the gut, that sort of thing. So that, and then that causes all sorts of problems, and then we get all those sorts of infections. Fungal infections, as you said, they can be significant.
Yep.
So that all from maybe having a little bit of stress or maybe chronic stress, and then that's impacting your entire system. So when, for instance, say people come to see me, and I get people who can be quite chronically ill, and they might have 4, 5, 6 different chronic conditions, and it could have started from stress. And that's why we always go back to when, you know, when did you first start to feel unwell? When did things change? That sort of thing. Nothing really. Did you move? Did you do anything? Did you have any stress? Oh, yeah, I went through a year of a bad divorce, or I had a, death in the family, or something like along those lines. So just that has then led 15 years down the track to significant chronic diseases, autoimmune conditions and other things, purely because possibly they just started with low stomach acid, then they got an infection that impacted their immune system, maybe the immune system then became hyperstimulated, they had an autoimmune condition, and it just goes on and on. So that's just one thing.
Well, it's probably happened to me when I was 20 when I got the Klebsiella infection that triggered my autoimmune arthritis that turned me into a freaking cripple for 6 years.
Yeah.
And that was possibly just a little bug that got into my gut that, because of my type of immune system and all that sort of stuff, the Klebsiella really affected me. It's like blastocystis hominis we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Doesn't affect you.
Yep.
Go to Jane Smith next door to you and they come down like a ton of bricks and get bloody ulcerative colitis and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just incredible. Also, there's different pathogens there that can cause this sort of stuff. But what about, what if you're doing something and you get an infection in your arm? I had an infection in my arm and I was prescribed antibiotics. I didn't take them. But but you should take your prescription drugs, everybody.
Yeah, do what
but I
doctor
monitored
says.
it. And I had an infection in my arm when I was working on a farm. And it was quite bad, and I treated it locally with iodine and stuff like that. But let's say you take antibiotics. What does that do?
Well, we all know that messes with the gut pretty significantly.
Yeah.
So it decimates. So it's non-selective.
Yep.
So it's going to kill commensal or your healthy microbes as well as your more infections and things like that. The thing a lot of people don't realise when they take antibiotics is they're antibacterial.
Yeah.
For the most part, you can get antifungals, but most of the antibiotics are antibacterial.
Yeah, Flagyl, that's antifungal, but
mostly antibacterial. And so what can happen is they knock out all the bacteria, but it doesn't kill the fungus.
No.
And we all have a little bit of fungus, it's a commensal in our gut, so candidas and things like that. It's just part of the whole ecosystem. So what can happen is you wipe out the bacteria. Then candida are renowned for proliferating. They're very good proliferators, so they can grow and colonise. They will then take over, and then people get fungal infections. That's why a lot of people get thrush and things when they have females, males too, I suppose. If they have antibiotics, can get thrush because they've had candida overgrowth.
Yeah.
So you've got to be really careful. And then there's that aspect, and then the other aspect is the bounce back effect after you've come off the antibiotics. A lot of people don't realise to sort of work on nourishing their microbiome and starting to promote the growth of the healthy bacteria again, because when you wipe everything out, it's like when you wipe out a field, what's the first thing that grows back? It's not the crop, it's the weeds.
Unfortunately, it's the weeds.
Yeah.
So
the more pathogenic bacteria will come back first. Yeah. And if they take over, then they will crowd out any space for the more commensal healthy bacteria. So then you have ongoing issues. So, someone says, I took antibiotics once and my gut hasn't been right since.
Yeah.
Because it's just thrown everything out of the whack. So I think people don't think that. They think, well, I'm taking the antibiotics or take some probiotics or something with it, or I'll be fine. I'll just go back to healthy eating.
They just take one strain of antibiotic.
One strain of antibiotic. One strain of
probiotic. And
probiotic,
it's just nuts, isn't it?
Yeah.
But all right, I've got another hypothetical for you. Let's say I'm getting, GERD, gastroesophageal reflux. I'm getting reflux.
Yeah.
I go to the pharmacy because I've got reflux and I'm not a naturopath. I'm just Joe Sixpack. And they give me Nexium, which is a PPI, proton pump inhibitor, and antacid.
Yeah.
What does that do?
Well, the amount of clients I see that are on Nexium is couldn't even number the amount of them. So many. Yep. So what a PPI does is it shuts down your acid production.
Yep.
Your stomach acid, as we talked about before, what can happen when you have low stomach acid, all the things that we said. So a PPI is basically doing that. So people say, well, but I feel better. I'm like, yeah, of course you do, because you don't have the acid. And we've talked about this in previous podcasts too. A lot of times the heartburn and the reflux is not from high stomach acid. It can be.
It can be, yeah. But it's
not
low
as often,
well.
not as commonly, but it can be more commonly low stomach acid.
Yeah, very much so, because you get the fermentation. Nothing does, you can get gas.
Pushes it up. Yeah.
And people eat crap too, we eat pretty well, but most people out there, let's be honest, and people listening to this podcast, you probably eat better than most people as well. Yeah, yeah. But most people in the world that you see, Nicole Brown, naturopathy, you practice every day, they are not eating super duper well.
No, a lot of them are not eating
Not eating well. All right, what about other medications? Like what about lifestyle medications? So the most common cholesterol medications like statins.
Yeah, so statins. So all of these can significantly impact the microbiome. Again, cause a lot of issues. So statins, metformin.
Yep.
SSRI, so these are really common.
Selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, so like Prozac, those sort of things.
Yeah, beta blockers, ACE inhibitors.
They're antihypertensive things. These are real common drugs.
Really common, yeah. And they can throw their microbiome out significantly as well. So, a lot of people, I get it really commonly with SSRIs. It's like, my gut's really bad since I've had constipation, I've got diarrhea or something or other. Because it's really impacting that microbiome.
Well, most serotonin is made in your gut.
Yeah.
So you're going to have those sorts of things going on there, which is, so you're going to destroy that. And also I want to talk to you about anti-inflammatories like non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, because they really destroy the gut, don't they?
They really destroy. So they decimate the lining of the gut.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because they inhibit this enzyme called cyclooxygenase 1.
Yeah.
And that is the healing enzyme of the gut. So you block that. And then they came out with this class of drugs called the COX-2 inhibitors. Yeah. And they cause clots and heart attacks. So, you got this terrible dichotomy. And also both of them are very bad for the kidneys.
Yeah.
They really stuff up your EGFR, their estimated glomerular filtration rate. So you get real problems there with all sorts. And we haven't picked weird medications.
No, these are very common standard medications. And, how many people do you know are on painkillers? And, I even see clients that have to have them for pain management that have chronic, issues with, back issues or injuries, chronic, and they have chronic pain. So they need to manage that. And so they start off with the pain medication, then they end up with gut issues and goes on and on and on because it's impacting their gut.
Well, of course, the opioids are classic constipators. So, that stuff's your gut up as well. It's quite remarkable. And before we talk about, what we do to treat it, because we're giving everyone bad news, I want to give you some more bad news, Nick.
Yeah, can you?
No, there's plenty of titles here, and I've printed off a couple of studies. The first one, you're gonna love this. It's to do with the immune system in the gut, and it's called The Role of the Gut Microbiota, the microbiome, in Tumour, Immunity and Immunotherapy. Because if you've got the wrong bugs in your gut, you can get cancer. And it's like, no, you can't catch cancer, but you can get cancer quite readily from low gut microbiome. And I'm holding up for those who are watching, I'm holding up a paper which shows you how you get cancer. And this is published in the Frontiers of Immunology. And it basically shows you that if you take something like antibiotics or bad diet or have, terrible microbiome, it changes your microbiome to cause bacterial dysbiosis, which leads to colorectal cancer. I'm reading it out for the people playing along at home. Get an inflammatory result. So any of these things that screw up your microbiome, they mention antibiotics by name here, so that's a real bad one there. So, you've got to be very, very careful about that. So, you've got to be really careful about changing your microbiome. People think you get a gut upset. You can get cancer if you've got the wrong. May get cancer.
Yeah.
And you can get cancer from the wrong sorts of bugs in your gut too. I've got another little paper here for holding up. Nice colour one. This one's good. Forgot that one in colour. It just makes it easier to read. So if you've got fungi or you've got parasites, that leads to oxidative damage, inflammation and mechanical damage, which can lead to cancer. The wrong bacteria can lead to cancer. Wrong viruses lead to cancer. So this is the Frontiers in Immunology paper that shows you that you can get cancer from bad bugs. But also, you mentioned specifically about the microbiome, and this is a great little paper that we found last minute.
Yep.
And I'm holding this up to the paper's rustling for those who are listening. But these are scientific papers, and we are nerds. And if you've got if you have sort of dysbiosis and you've got high levels of proteobacteria, which can be bad, that leaks into the gut and can trigger autoimmune diseases.
Yep. So
that's what happened to me. This is a paper of my gut when I was 20.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
And one thing off to the side here is this. I want you to talk about this. Low vitamin D mediates this. What the hell is that got to do with your gut? Vitamin D is the skin vitamin. What can you tell us about vitamin D?
Vitamin D is strongly connected to our immune system.
Yes.
And so, low to vitamin D levels. And that's one of the things we first look for with autoimmune conditions is what is the vitamin D doing. So, vitamin D, and interestingly enough, I had Klebsiella overgrowth in my gut too, but it didn't affect me.
Bloody lucky Yeah, but you haven't got human leukocyte
I
antigen
don't.
B27.
No, that's right, exactly. So that's where it comes in.
And you're a chick. Chicks are mildly protective of it.
Yeah, they are. Yes.
They're spoilt, these women, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, totally. We get it so easily.
Get it so easy.
Yeah, that's right.
Actually, women get more autoimmune disease than men.
Women do get more autoimmune.
Because they got better immune system because you got 2 X chromosomes, smarty pants.
That's right, yeah, because they have to
I've only
grow
got
things
one.
in there that you can't really, the immune system has to leave alone. So,
Yes.
for some women anyway.
Yeah, you've got a pretty fancy immune system. But this low vitamin D stuff, I mean, you got to remember, people know vitamin D comes from the sun. How much sun are you going to get today?
Oh, I'm not going to get any sun today. I haven't even seen the sun. Well, one, it's cloudy outside.
It's very cloudy and rainy.
Yeah, up in the dark and be home.
But look where we're sitting.
I know, yeah.
It's the middle of the day. Oh, what's it now? It's just after midday now.
Yep.
The sun's at its peak, and what are we doing?
Sitting inside.
Sitting inside, recording a podcast, which is fun.
Yeah.
But I'm not getting any vitamin D sitting here, am I?
Yeah, no.
And you know what's going to happen to me at 5 o'clock today?
You're going to get in the car.
Going to get in the car with the glass,
freeway.
which blocks UVB light.
Yeah.
Drive home. Be dark by the time I get home.
Yeah.
So I've got bugger all vitamin D. I've got my jumper down there.
Yeah.
Because it's a coolish day. I'm getting nothing.
Yeah.
And we're in Queensland.
We are. Yeah.
And we are kind of brownish, aren't we?
Yeah, we're pretty brown.
A little bit brownish.
Yeah.
I purposely go out in the sun when I can. Yeah, swim, especially in winter.
And that's the thing. I think some people they think, well, I'll just take vitamin D supplement, which is fine, but is not the sun the best option because your body assimilates it. That's how we're supposed to get our vitamin D. It also has other benefits. You're outside, you're getting fresh air, stress management, all that sort of thing. So you can't just sort of offset. Okay, well I'm inside all day, so I'll just take vitamin D. I won't worry about it. I'm taking vitamin D. I'm good. You still need to try to get sun when you can.
Highly protective against certain cancers. We've done podcasts on sunlight.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, and you got to remember that we're just talking about today, but there are a lot of people. I spoke to my mother this morning. She lives in Melbourne. She's saying, oh, it's going to get up to 12 today. Do you know how much sunlight she's going to get today? Zero. And my sister in Melbourne, 0. My niece in Melbourne, 0. Because it's freezing cold.
Yeah.
No one's going to go out there and wear shorts or a T-shirt. Even if you go to midday, you'll get rained on in Melbourne because it's shit down there. And I'm from Melbourne.
We can say that we're Victorians.
We're Victorian, so we can pick up. But so no vitamin D. So low vitamin D on this thing, and you get high levels of T-alpha-1 and T-alpha-17.
Yeah.
T-alpha-17 is my enemy.
It's the bad one.
That's about T-alpha-1 can cause things like rheumatoid arthritis.
Yeah.
So autoimmune disease is over the top, and you get reduced T regulatory cells here. So you are in a big state of autoimmunity, and that's coming from your microbiome. And so low vitamin D, it combined with all this sort of stuff. And remember, it is July. We are in winter.
Yeah.
It's at the middle of July.
Not
no,
yet.
it's not
So
yet.
did
It's
that.
only
It's
early
only the
July.
start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Second today, isn't it?
Second.
Yeah. Jeez. So I thought it would be middle of July. Weeks of it.
Wishing the time away.
Oh, well, I'm wishing the time away because I want it to be summer again because I can get my vitamin D. But look, and you know, we are in literally, it's called the sunshine state, and we're getting none of it.
No. So yeah, that's definitely a big.
That's a big problem. Now I've got another little coloured graph here that goes to what you said before about stress. And for those who are playing along at home watching this, look at that. Look at the diagram there. Look what stress does to your body. It screws everything up. But look what happens right at the bottom there. T-helper bloody 17 autoimmunity
again.
So, and you got the T-regs, and it's got an arrow pointing straight to the brain because your gut goes to the gut brain. So if you are stressed, it stuffs up everything, neurotransmitters, all that sort of thing. Less immune cells, as you correctly pointed out before, more inflammatory cells, a lot of T-alpha-17, so autoimmunity, and so stress really screws. And it also, there's a little box off to the side here, and I want you to talk about that. Glucocorticoids, or cortisol, causes leaky gut.
Yeah.
Now, do you remember leaky gut? And everyone said that's rubbish.
The orthodox medicine poo-pooed leaky gut, which we don't call leaky gut. Now we call it gut hyperpermeability.
Yeah.
So, and we've talked about this before too. We have things called gap junctions that line that the barrier of our gut, and they're like little plaque shields, and they just line our gut, and they have little micro.
Little shits. That's what I thought you were going to say.
Well, it can be.
It can be.
They have little micro gaps in them, and that that's when you said when we eat things, we need them to actually go through our nutrients to get into our blood, our circulation. So they go through these micro gaps, and these gap junctions are designed to open and close a little bit anyway. Sorry, I just hit the microphone. So I just moved. Sorry, Matt.
We're such experts. We've only been podcasting for 10 years.
Scratching my nose.
Oh, God.
So they're designed to open and close occasionally. They're supposed to. But what can happen is we've talked about gluten. So gluten actually causes zonulin, which then opens the gap junctions. But pathogens, bacteria, things like that, LPS-producing bacteria, they can then obviously degrade the mucus layer, then they can degrade that lining, and they can open those gap junctions up, makes big holes rather than little holes, and then big proteins and antigens and things can go straight through into the bloodstream, cause an inflammatory response, which causes an immune response, which is where we say, gut hyperpermeability is strongly connected to autoimmune conditions and things like that. So, and we didn't talk about things, even diet. So particular diets can really impact things like our mucus layer as well.
Well, you mentioned the G word then, gluten.
Gluten, yeah, so gluten.
And we go back to the Australian diet of the cereal for breakfast, sandwich. There's shit gluten everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's just crap.
Yeah.
So that causes leaky gut syndrome, which causes all those things, all those problems, screws your microbiome up. This is, and I would say probably 90% of Australians have gluten.
I think less. I think it's becoming a little bit less, but I think it's funny. A lot of people do gluten. A lot of people say to me, I'm gluten-free, so I'm healthy. I mean, doesn't mean healthy at all. It's got nothing to do with being healthy.
Crack cocaine has no gluten.
That's right. It doesn't.
That's what I used to say. Can we say that, or is that going to get it out?
You've just said it.
It's just true.
Yeah,
it's like lots of things don't have gluten, but you've got to do better than that. And and it's quite remarkable. Another thing very good for our gut microbiome is exercise.
Yeah.
Really good for your microbiome.
It helps to develop our commensals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Commensal, which is a healthy bacteria.
And about a third of Australians don't exercise.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you people?
I know.
Get off your ass.
Yeah. Yeah. So
it's really.
So we've got anything else that we can.
Well, there is one other thing that I'm not drinking in there that I could be drinking in there: artificial sweeteners. They screw your microbiome. Yeah. So even if you're on this healthy diet and you're having a healthy protein shake and all this with your smoothies, if you read the label and it's got sucralose on it, you're stuffing up your gut.
Yeah.
This
is a very contentious topic too, isn't it?
God,
I don't know why, because people fight for it to be wrong,
We've had experts, and this is what disappoints me a little bit, where experts talk about their products and how good they are, and they talk about the protein and that, and yet they add sucralose to it, or sulfonamide potassium. These are bad for your gut. This is not a mystery anymore. No. In the 90s when I was using it to formulate, we'd say, I'd just go straight through. It does. Kills the bugs on the way through.
Yeah,
it's like, but we didn't know that.
No.
We didn't even think about the bugs back then. We sold probiotics and that fixed everything, and lactobacillus acidophilus, one strain
that fixed everything.
Yeah. And it's like, no, it doesn't work like that. But we really, really started to, learn about this in the 2000s and a bit more recently. So be careful about what supplements you take. You could be having a, quote, healthy supplement.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys go to the gym, have a lot of whey protein. Whey is often sweetened with sucralose, so they sulfonamide potassium. They taste great. They are very sweet. You don't need much of them. They've got low calories. Yeah. So everyone ticks the box and goes, yep, that's fine. But it does disrupt your gut.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, Nic, now, have we given people enough bad news? Can we start talking about, someone comes to you, they've got bad guts. What's some supplements you do? What would you, what sort of things do you look at trying to heal?
So, and because we're talking about the immune system as well, I think we wanted to highlight that if you have poor immune function or you're getting sick, you don't just reach for the immune supplements.
Echinaceas, golden seals.
Which definitely they can be helpful. Yeah. But if it's coming from your gut, if you're having issues with your gut, that's going to significantly impact your immune system. Just taking the immune nutrients isn't probably going to do a great deal because the factor's still going on in the gut. So we really want to make sure when we're looking at immune health that we're looking at gut health at the same time.
Really important. Yeah. Really important.
Yeah. So, and we've talked about lots of treatments in the past for the gut as well. So, but, obviously you want to remove whatever's going on in there or repair, say, if you've got gut barrier dysfunction. So if you've got gut hyperpermeability, or if you've got infections, bacterial or candidas or parasites, things like that, you want to clean all that up. So antimicrobials, and that's one thing I didn't mention when we talked about antibiotics, is antimicrobials also, you've got to be careful. So I have had people come to me in the past that said, I've been on oregano oil for 6 months. It's great. I feel great.
Oh, wow.
Which is great. But oregano oil, again, it's non-selective, which means it will kill off commensal or healthy bacteria as well as more pathogenic.
Yeah.
So there are some antimicrobials, and because they're herbal doesn't always mean that they're going to be great long term.
Of course.
So you've also got to be careful with your antimicrobials if you're taking them without sort of any sort of guidance at all. So antimicrobials, in saying that, to help remove infections, but obviously talk to somebody who knows what they're doing, so you're not just going out and just obliterating your gut. A few reasons, different herbs, different antimicrobials will kill different things. So you can get, again, like antibiotics and antifungals, you can get antifungal antimicrobials. So you want to know what it is that you're trying to kill, and then using the right herb to kill that if you need to.
That's where they need to see someone like you. Because if I started taking essential oils for 6 months, that's like taking antibiotics for 6 months.
Yeah, pretty much.
Destroys your gut. So don't do that.
Don't do that.
Really.
No.
Seek someone like Nic. You can Google you, Nicole Brown, naturopathy, you come up there. So do that, and don't self-sabotage yourself.
Yeah. So be very careful. But you want to remove any infections, and then you want to repair that gut barrier function. So, and it's funny, so a lot of people have food sensitivities. A lot of that is gut hyperpermeability or leaky gut.
Yep.
So if you have a lot of sensitivities to foods, it's quite possible you have a leaky gut or a hyperpermeable gut. So obviously you want to be healing that. So things like your glutamine are really good.
Really good.
Deglycerized licorice, vitamin A, zinc carnosine, they're really good healing
zinc carnosine is really good. And it's not zinc per se, it's the carnosine.
It's the carnosine. So the carnosine stops the absorption systemically, so it keeps it local, and then that localized zinc obviously helps the healing. So it sort of keeps it within the gut. So that's why it's really good for healing.
Good.
And then reducing inflammation, obviously, because a lot of inflammation comes along with this sort of thing.
Yep.
And interestingly, I do ask people about their poo, their stool.
Do you?
I do. And so the questions I ask a lot is, do you notice any mucus in your stool?
Oh, yeah.
So if you have mucus in your stool, that can be an indication you have a lot of inflammation in the gut, because we talked about that mucus layer.
Yeah.
When there's a lot of inflammation going on in the gut, the mucus layer will try to thicken. One, because it, for the secretory IgA, and two, to protect that gut barrier.
Yeah.
And so then you'll shed some of that in the stool. So if you have like a lot of mucus going on in the stool, and you can see it's usually white and slimy, it can indicate you have some.
Can't wait to have lunch.
I know. Sorry if anyone's eating while they're listening to this. So that can be an indication that you have some inflammation going on. So, anti-inflammatories, so boswellia, curcumin, N-acetylcysteine is really good as well as an anti-inflammatory. Omega-3s I love.
You love it.
Quercetin there's a lot. We've talked about that.
Quercetin's a really important one too.
I love quercetin, and it's antiviral as well. So we're talking about any viruses and things, and it's anti-inflammatory. It's healing. It's great. I love it.
Right. Now, that's great. Now, how do we balance the microbiome in the body? What do you do?
So if you've got rid of the infection or the dysbiosis, then you want to start to promote the growth of beneficial bacteria. You want to sort of keep the more pathogenic, because we all have a little bit of pathogenic bacteria, a little bit.
Yeah.
You want to keep it all in balance. So pre and probiotics is really important. Through food as much as possible, obviously. So you don't want to just keep downing probiotics.
Yeah, look, you're right. We work for a supplement company, okay?
Yeah.
No surprise there. But we recommend food over any supplement.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely 100% true.
Yeah. So you want to have everything's on point with your diet. So, fibers and things are really good. So fibers help to feed the beneficial bacteria. We didn't talk about short-chain fatty acids, but we have in the past.
Your soluble fibers, yeah.
Yeah, so they really help with butyrates, and things are really reparative for the colonocytes of the large intestine. So, high fibers, resistant starches and things like that are really important. We've talked about those in the past. Probiotics you can get through food, so your cultured foods. So, sauerkrauts, kimchis, like kefirs. I wouldn't touch kombucha, to be honest.
No, I'm not a fan either.
No, it can be not great.
Gee, it was a big fad in the 90s.
Such a big fad. So many people end up with candida overgrowth from the
God.
kombuchas.
It just tasted like vinegar.
I know, not good. But, you know, tempeh and soy sauce and apple cider vinegar, and they're all fermented, and cultured foods like yogurts, if you don't do dairies, coconut yogurts and things like that. So food first, and then probiotics, but you've got to be a bit careful. Probiotics have become very specialised.
Yeah.
And they're, you know, different because we know so much more about the microbiome now and the different bugs, what probiotics are good for what.
Yes.
So you don't want to just grab a standard, probiotic with 10 strains in it and have it, because it may not go well for you.
It's like what I did when in the 90s. It was like bugs that fits,
the more strains, the better. Just put them all in. Yeah.
How many billions in that one? Oh, it's got 50 billion.
So it's not. So you want to be a bit more careful with probiotics, and obviously polyphenols is a really good one to put in there as well.
They're potent antioxidants and sort of defense chemicals in all sorts of plant foods. So they're really good.
So they're really good as well. So that's sort of how you want to redo the gut. And even I love slippery elm as well, because it's healing for the gut, but it's also a prebiotic, and it helps with bifidobacterium
really
growth, which is a really good one, particularly for immune function as well. And then, and then when you've got your gut okay, then you can, think, okay, if my immune system is still out of whack, then we look elsewhere. But that alone could help to normalise your immune system again. So
get out. If you're stressed at, say, work, try and get out in the sunshine. Not today, but go for a walk in the sun during. I know there's a couple of staff members here who do it. They love it. They come back refreshed and all bubbly, and I'm like, oh God, what do you take? And some caffeine in the kitchen or something. But no, they're just bubbly. Went for a walk. They really love it, and so I think if we keep going out there, when I had COVID recently, I purposely sat in the sun for about half an hour a day. I didn't get it bad though. I was like, it was very, very mild. But going out in the sun, relaxing, eating well, it was the best way to treat your body when you're unwell.
I mean, exactly. That's for a reason. People think, lifestyle, go out. But it's actually, we say it for a reason, because you're getting the vitamin D, which is helping your immune system. You're getting the fresh air, and the sunshine, which is reducing your cortisol, which is then reducing the impact on your gut. So, which is then, helping to take a bit of load off the immune system.
Yep.
So if you are sick a lot of the time or coming into winter in Australia, make sure your gut's nice and healthy, because that will definitely support your immune system.
Absolutely. And because you got to remember, our bugs, it's got trillions of bugs in our gut, and the immune system hangs out down there. Yeah. It's remarkably important to look after.
It's got to sort out all those bugs, what's good, what's bad, what to keep, what to kill.
All this science, Nic. It's incredible, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So that's been good. I think we're running out of time now, so we better wrap it up. But thanks, Nic. It's good. We love the bowels.
We love the bowels. Yeah, we always go down the bowels.
So we'll see you next week, and it won't be about bowels next week.
No.
All right, we'll see you next week, guys.
See ya.